and we're here to teach you guys this time about the science of guard passing as we understand it. This is not, what's going to follow is not just going to be a catalog of moves, you know, my favorite things or things that I like to do, or this technique or that technique. I mean, don't get me wrong, there's going to be certain sequences and series that not only do I use, but I feel are very valuable teaching tools. But at the end of the day, what we're hoping to accomplish here is to impart and relay some of the most important principles and ideas that govern all guard passes and strong positioning that I hope that you guys will use to become your own grappler, not a copy of me and not a copy of anyone else. If I don't have pressure, guys, what guard passing usually looks like is a bunch of, you know, like Scooby-Doo chase scenes where you're running around in circles and not a whole lot gets accomplished. I need to be able to pin Seth in place. For instance, here we are. I'm going to pressure into Seth's feet. As Seth pushes into me, I can redirect, I can feel movement, and I can pin him into the floor. Now, Seth is moving well in order to adapt to my pressure, but if you'll notice, I'm guiding him into different positions with the way that I'm leaning. This is absolutely critical. If I settle back, it seems like a lot of times, like, oh man, I'm hard to sweep. But that's no different than me standing on the other side of the boxing ring from you and going, ha ha ha, you can't hit me. Right now, I am completely ineffective. I'm pulling the hips, and he starts to push at me. I'm at a phenomenal depth to get underneath his arms and get into arm triangles or back attacks, but going underneath of his arms. If I ascend just a little bit higher before controlling, it's very, very difficult for me to get underneath of my opponent's arms because he doesn't have to push very much. If you guys notice, when my arm hangs at my side, my wrist stops just a little bit lower than my hip. So if you can get me to reach, that's a fantastic place to be. Just being down around the hips is going to incentivize people in many cases to do exactly what you need to do in order to get to an excellent form of control. I don't know, everyone in Jiu-Jitsu always like, oh, don't be on your back, don't be flat on your back. And I always wonder, like, why? And if you have a real reason, and don't get me wrong, every now and then there's legitimate reason, but hey, when you're flat on your back, you're stable. You can leg press, you can bench press, you can do all this stuff. You know, there's, generally speaking, in my limited experience in life, anything that everyone thinks is right, I'm found is almost certainly wrong. And that, you know, the never be flat on your back thing is certainly one of them. So what I'd like to do is get my opponent all the way up onto his shoulders so that he has a very, very limited base. So, Seth, if you're flat on your back, please. Don't let me push your knees around left and right. I want you to fight. You can be pretty stable and strong here. If I roll up on your shoulders, watch this. Don't let me push you left and right. He has no means to stop me. Now, he can use his arms, but there's nothing to push off of, guys. He's effectively standing on one foot, because his base is about this big. It's the length of his shoulders. So what I'm going to look to do when I get myself into the double underhooks position is create the stack pass. So the over heels to the other side. Notice this right arm, if we rotate, is coming underneath. It's very, very important. Slide to my back with this knee up behind. I could lose him, but as I come around, notice my arm is coming underneath of Seth's leg. Slide to my back, please. It effectively puts me into a double leg. There's no way that he's going to be able to get to my back. I can come back up. Seth pushes my head down again. I hop to the other side. I would be able to finish, but again, for whatever reason, Seth bumps my head down. I say, okay. I could simply hop, but in certain scenarios, you're going to have to flip. Now we could easily mix it with the initial drill. Circling behind. Seth pushes my head down. As he turns to face, switch behind. As he turns to face, I switch behind. Transitioning from side to side safely until I'm able to eventually, again, side to side, make it to a high enough position on his body that his arms are no longer a factor, and I'll be able to lock him in. So again, transitioning is going to be your absolute key. I'm always moving towards my opponent's back. Now, bottom player is going to make hooks below your knee. Very important. He's making strong hooks. As we've discussed in prior series, guys, you know, flaccid should never be a word that describes a hook that you're using. It should really be stuck in there so that I can't step off. Now, I'm dropping my knee and I'm simply using my mass. Notice I'm not tense, I'm very relaxed. I'm stable and I'm leaning my knee down onto Seth's shin. What this is going to do is it's going to hold it in place as I rotate my foot to the inside and take a deep step. If I take a shallow step, guys, he's going to go to a De La Riva hook. Not the end of the world. We can deal with that, but not really what we're looking for. So again, I put my knee down and I rotate to the inside, taking a strong step. Now notice how I've pointed my body in the same direction that I stepped. What this has done is it's caught my other leg to rotate. inside. And now notice, I could easily drop into any number of our base passing positions that will allow me to really start to make progress in Seth's guard. But if I had ignored his hooks in the first place, man, I'm not going to make any headway. You absolutely must, guys, at a high level, rob your opponent of his ability to grab you, because if at a high level I let you get what you want to do, if I let you get your grips, you're going to get me. People are too good, they're too skilled, they're too fast, they're too strong. You cannot let them have the means to hurt you. The worst thing I can do is try to yank my arms free, because all I'm doing is accelerating Seth into these positions. You want to see this done beautifully? Watch Calbrina. You know, and just watch people try to yank free and watch them spin underneath and all sorts of different things. I need to maintain my stability, my structure, while attempting to damage my opponents. So what we're going to start with here is recognizing that I can't break both grips at the same time, assuming that Seth has double bicep hooks. What I'm going to start with is simply walking my knee in against him. Now I have to understand, if you start to extend this leg, I have to be prepared to base and realize that my opponent's going to try to bother me. That's why stability is so important. If we come back for a second, if I'm like here and now you start to tilt me, I'm going to immediately fall. If you guys notice, I immediately came off balance, and Seth barely, he wasn't even trying to sweep, he just extended his leg. So if you'd have been trying to dump me, I would have gotten face planted on the mat. So very important, what I want you guys to do is maintain your own structure and circle your hand inside if possible. So again, I'm holding his foot off because right now there's an immense amount of pressure on my bicep. There's counter force. He's extending his leg, not freaking out, but there's just extension. What good players will do, guys, is they'll push in just enough to create tension. If you hyperextend your leg, like whatever, I can take that grip away very easily. What I want you guys to do is recognize that a good player is going to pull just a little bit and push just a little bit, because if he pulls super hard and pushes super hard, he's fighting his own grip. I'll just hang here and let Seth break his own fingers off. I'm going to settle in with proper base, taking the pressure off of my bicep. What this allows me to do is circle my hand to the inside. Now I can break free, or I can simply, even if Seth held on, I can circle to the inside. And now, again, notice how this makes it, how awkward this is for Seth's grip here. His leg is blocking his arm. Now, I wouldn't recommend yanking free, but it's just meant to illustrate that if we come back for a second, your leg is not in the way, even if you just take your leg free. That's not going anywhere. But anytime I have a counter check, I can start to break the grip. Here we are, I'm cutting through, and I've made it most of the way, and I even got my knee to the floor, but Seth trapped my foot pretty effectively. So if we rotate, here we are. What I want to try to stop from happening is Seth sitting up around my leg, giving me a really hard time here. That's not really what we want. So I'm going to stay low, and ideally my head is down, and I'm using my hand and my head to control this top shoulder to stop him from turning in. Now, rather than making a transition, I'm always going to try to stay put and work my way through with small, subtle motions. So notice how my base is out, my foot's out wide. Never a good idea to bring this in here. It's going to get trapped up, or rarely a good idea, rather. My base is out, my head is going to be down, and rather than finding my underhook with my hand, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my elbow first off of the lapel. So if we rotate a little bit this way, please. So assuming my head is in position, but Seth won't push, and he's looking to come up around with a low underhook. This is the situation I'm trying to avoid. So I'm head down. I'm going to use my hand, my elbow rather, to find the underhook. But I still feel stuck because Seth is mostly on his side. So what I need to do is I'm going to circle my right foot, very important, over top. So I'm circling my right foot. Right now, my foot is caught against Seth's thigh like this. It's not really going to be able to get through. By circling my foot, I'm going to be able to successfully break, or hopefully successfully break their grip by changing the profile. So here we are. Hope you guys can see. I'm trying to yank my foot through, and unless I have a tiny little elf foot, it's going to be tough. So I'm circling over top. Even if you make a triangle with your legs, Seth, I'm circling through the space between his calves so that my hip can descend into the space. And it's very, very important that I sit. Don't lean like this, because Seth can cut underneath me. Stability first, pressure second. Can you suck your hips back now? Watch the process. Hips go to the ground, then his hips go backwards. And that's a huge motion that gives me all the time in the world to recover if things start to go badly. So remember, hey, I can pass when he's flat on his back, and I can be nice and tight and all that other good stuff, but I'd much prefer to lift his hips. So we'll show quickly, if you do find yourself here, I would recommend keeping short arms. This is not necessary. All I'm doing is creating a ton of exposure behind my elbows. I really wouldn't recommend it, particularly in the gi. It's absolutely foolish to do this. There's no need whatsoever. Stay on the belt with both hands, keep your elbows closed. Can you move your hips side to side, please, Seth?
Not much.
Not really. How about now? See how my body moves around too? More importantly, that Seth can move is he knocked me off balance like this, man. You'll sweep people. In fact, if you're really cool, you can watch Leo Vieira and Andre Galvao do the the turn, the omoplata with the hips. I'm like, oh man, that sucks, and I'm absolutely getting put on YouTube if that happens to me. So it's very, very, and it's a great move, but just recognize that that can happen. Keep these to yourself unless you absolutely have to reach out. So here we are. My arms are inside. What I'll do is I'll either A, drive into Seth to bring his weight up onto his shoulders, or B, I'll bring his hips up onto mine, just to give me a little bit, give Seth a little bit less stability. Now from here, if he starts to open his legs very, very wide, that's where we start to go back into our split passing, coming through, going over, under, all that good stuff. But assuming that he doesn't commit like that, all I'm going to do is I'm going to shrug him by and get my head to the outside. Now, from here, I have a straight line. You'll always see people reaching across. Don't. Elbow pushed. Just stay right here. Block the inside shoulder. Now, which limb are you going to push me with, Seth?
This is the only one I can.
Gotta be. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to drive my head to the far corner.